scene is cheesy. The plot is stupid. I'm sorry, the plot is bad.
That's a little opening.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to an exciting ARG event. Why is this an exciting event? I'll tell you why, suckers. It's because this week, me, Amigo Aaron, is picking both the games. I've picked myself a great game, and I've picked the BRENT, an even better game. That's right. It's Aaron Picks a Game Week. By the way, welcome to ARG Presents. Your good buddy, Amigo Aaron, joined as always by the BRENT.
Hello.
Gonna have a lot of fun today because I didn't just want to pick two games like a geek. I like to have a theme when I pick games. I want there to be a theme involved. You understand? A theme. And this week's theme are games from the heralded and highly successful Sega System 32 PCBs from the arcade. System 32
Would you say
PCBs.
these are high? Really? I don't know if I would go that high on them.
Well, it's funny you should mention that to Brent because I thought you might badmouth them.
By the way, the middle game is not games from the Sega PCB.
What do you mean?
It is just games that you and I have played together.
No, these are games.
No.
Oh,
on the screen.
On the screen.
On
I got
the screen.
you. I was wondering what you're talking about. So, I got a list here of the games. Of course, for your lay person at home, the Sega 32, System 32 PCB or circuit board was the Sega game board that you would put in the arcade machine, and in this case, the System 32 boards were based on a certain architecture that they used to make all these games. There was a 6x16 board, for example. This is a 32 board. Now I got a list here of all the games made, and there were a ton. We're gonna kind of just flip through them real quick.
All right.
Before we get into the main event. Of all the games that were released on the Sega System 2 with the arcade, okay? Now, I will admit, you had mixed results on some of these. And I even got the year they came out. So, I'm going to go down the list in no particular order here. And you tell me if you played it, give me your thoughts.
All right.
In 1990, Radmobile. I never played it. I never heard of it. 1991, F1 Exhaust Note.
Nope.
That's the best name on that one. I haven't played that one either.
This is the exhaust note.
I don't know. In 91, you had to follow up Radmobile with Rad Rally.
Okay.
And no, nothing on that
Not
one.
off the name.
92, Air Rescue.
Nope.
No, so far, probably now, another 1992, Arabian Fight.
Yes.
You have played Arabian Fight.
Yeah.
Tell us about Arabian.
It's a beat 'em up.
Okay. And what did you think of it?
Arabian
Fight.
The sprites are big.
Yeah, that's about it. Not real. This is already going great. Also in 92, you had F1 Super Lap.
Nope.
Nope. Now here's one you may have heard of: 1992 Golden Axe: The Revenge of Death Adder.
Yep.
We covered that on the show. And that's a all-time great beat 'em up.
That's pretty good.
It's the best of the Golden Axes by a light years. It's the outstanding game. I love this. And this thing sadly, never really got a port to the home systems. In fact, that's sort of a trend you're going to find with a lot of these. 1992 also saw the release on this. This is amusing. I didn't know this. Coliseum. Was a System 32 game. Now, this game was the one with used the holograms.
Yep.
Sort of a dud in a lot of ways.
Oh, yeah. It was a horrible fighting game.
Yeah, but it looked neat. Now, here's something a lot of people didn't realize, I'd wager. Released in the arcade in 1992 on the System 32 hardware, Sonic the Hedgehog, the arcade game. You ever play that?
That's because that's not the isometric one. So, no, I don't know.
I don't think I've played it either.
Unless it's the isometric one, I haven't played it.
Another one released in 1993, Alien 3, The Gun.
Oh, yeah.
The Gun?
Yeah.
Why's it called that?
It's a gun game.
So you assemble a gun?
No, it's a gun game.
Oh, it's a game. So it's like a Terminator 2.
Yeah.
How is it?
Alien's
pretty big. Alien 3 wasn't the big one really, but
well, I mean, it was the second biggest one.
Then you've got, now I'm sure you've played this one.
Third.
1993, Burning Rival.
Yep.
Yeah. What do you think about that one?
Not
Not so good. Here's what
So far, I'm not impressed with your board set, Aaron.
Sorry. Here's one from 1994, Dragon Ball Z versus. Oh no, excuse me, Dragon Ball Z VR VS. But just while we're here, what do you think of the old Dragon Ball Z? You a fan of the old Z? I never got into this thing.
No.
I never understood why people liked it so much.
I don't
I
want.
know we're going to make a lot of people mad, but I don't want to watch something where a fight goes on for like 6 episodes between a guy who looks like a giant pickle and a dude who looks like a giant child. Not my bag. I don't know. Never understood. I'm a big anime guy from back in the day, but this one I didn't get into. Never liked the Dragon Ball Z. 1994, this is a good one, Jurassic Park. That was a fun game.
That was the. That's also a gun game.
It is. That's a gun game. Now, I did like that one.
Yeah,
now,
it was
here's
great.
one everyone can enjoy. 1994, Super Visual Football / Super Visual Soccer / the J League. No, soccer game.
That sounds like a Japanese exclusive.
And now, lastly, this was listed as a Capcom game that was that used this hardware. Slipstream, 1995. Ever heard of that one?
I have, but I think I'm mixing it up with the PC game.
So as I looked over these, and I skipped the 2 we picked, by the way.
Obviously.
As I looked over these, as I look back, I've not played a good chunk of these. So maybe we'll come down this road again, and I'll make you play another one of these.
No, I'd rather not. I'd rather not come back down this road.
So how would you compare the System 32 to the old System 16 board? Probably not quite. Didn't get quite a lot out of the System 32 board.
I mean, I'm surprised.
Yeah.
That because usually when you have a board set, you go pretty hard on it. I mean, like CPS 1 and CPS 2 from Capcom, a ton of games, and almost all of them classics.
Sorry. I just looked over at the chat, and Laserdisc wrote, who doesn't want to watch a series where half the episode is some dude powering up? That's good stuff.
That's what we should try, Aaron.
See, I like it when the chat writes better material than we can ever come up with. Good job, chat. Keep it coming. So, with all that said, we're both big arcade aficionados, I would say.
Oh, certainly.
We spent a lot of time in the old arcades.
We did.
Now, granted, when you look at the width and breadth of the System 32 board that extended really from, it was one game in 90, but the rest were from 91 to 95. This would have been your downtime in American. Your arcades. No, well, hold on. Hear me out here. Your arcades had settled into a groove at this point. And this was your fighting game here. You weren't getting as much variety back then. And there weren't as many arcades in the early 90s. By that time, they were slow. They had condensed down a little bit. And also by this time, young Aaron was in college, so I didn't get to go out and run around and see a lot of this stuff. But I would wager a good chunk of these probably never made it to the States, to be honest with you.
That I'll agree with you with.
But
no, this was the resurgence of arcades.
Well, it was a resurgence of fighting games in arcades. But listen, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but you weren't getting the variety that you were back in the day.
In the 80s?
That's right. And there weren't. You can admit that
what a silly comment.
Arcades had condensed by the time this stuff came down, so you're not going to get you weren't getting as many things weren't getting as many looks. So I'm assuming a lot of these stuff didn't come out in the arcade. So, with all that said, since it was my choice to pick both games this week, I picked a fun game for me and an outstanding game for Brent that I'd never heard or played before. Would you like to go first or second today, Brent?
Oh, I'll go first.
All right, Brent. What do you got for us this week that I made you play?
What did you take for us? Dark Edge.
Dark Edge. Now, before you start, let me just say that I came upon this completely naturally. There was no lists or anything like that. I was just looking.
You just read a list.
But no. I mean, yeah, but I came up with my idea for these games after I found your game. Because I was like, look at this game. I've never heard of this. I'm like, oh, let's see what board set it's under. Like, oh, what can I play from that board set? And so that's how I came up with it. So
what you did was you found this game, then you looked at the board set, and you picked the only game on that board set that you recognized.
Well, no, I recognize a couple, but I wanted to pick one that we hadn't played before. So please, tell us about this unknown quantity, Dark Edge, Brent.
Well,
it's dark.
Dark Edge, of course, being a Sega board set, is a Sega game. And it is an ambitious title.
Yeah.
that it is a fighting game,
Yeah.
as was the style at the time. And this was you could say this is one of the first attempts at a 3D fighter.
Yeah, it predates Virtua Fighter, but like a year or two.
Yes.
Yeah.
But Sega being Sega, they're not going to do the polygonal. Ooh, we don't want that kind of 3D.
Well, I
We
mean,
want-
eventually they did do that.
We
by the
want
way.
sprite 3D because that's what this board set was known for, was being able to scale sprites.
Yeah.
And there's no doubt about that. So, developed in-house by Sega AM3, that was their arcade division.
Pedigree, huge pedigree with those guys.
Yeah, released in 1993 over in Japan, and that's it.
Yeah.
This did not make it across the pond
or to home.
Now it says here that there was a North American release, but it was in 2021. Yeah, that's when the
I think that's when the Mini came out.
That's when the Mini came out, the Fighting Cab Minis. So, what is Dark Edge? The plot is.
I gotta hear this.
What?
I have no idea what you're gonna say now.
The plot is that you are fighting for control of the world.
No. High stakes.
And you have to go through the six other fighters before you can fight off against the big bad supercomputer in hopes of bringing peace to your world.
Yeah.
Dark Edge has a unique feel, being a sprite-based fighter that is also a 3D fighter.
Yeah.
It allows you to move in all 8 cardinal directions, sort of. You have a low...
Aren't there 4 cardinal directions?
Well, 4 cardinal directions plus
How many cardinals have you been messed around with?
Well, apparently not enough. You have 6 fighters to choose from that vary from robots to samurais to men in mechs. And you control your fighter, sorta. You have a light punch, a heavy punch, a light kick, a heavy kick, and a jump button.
Yeah.
Because your stick is solely for moving around the screen. Funny thing, Aaron, as you played, you might have noticed this. Maybe it was just me. The computer never jumps. I never once saw the computer jump.
I don't know if I even thought about it.
It might do moves.
It jumps, surely.
No, it might do moves that take it up into the air, but it never jumps. And there's a reason for that.
All right.
Jumping sucks.
What now? I jumped all the time.
Well, how'd you do?
Well, mixed bag there.
What makes this game good? Give me a second. I'm sure I can come up with something.
The visuals are nice.
No, they're not. Okay, let's talk about what's wrong with the game. Everything.
What?
Everything is wrong in the game.
We play the same game?
Since you can move in 8 directions and it's a sprite-based game, there are several, and I don't mean like, oh, this happened once or twice. There are several times when the fighter you are is behind the fighter you're fighting because the camera doesn't swing around at all.
Yeah.
It will zoom out to make the field larger, but it will never pivot. So you could be staring at the back of your opponent for an entire fight.
Well, yeah,
and that
you're not going to. Not the whole fight. You're not going to be up to the whole fight.
That happens a lot because the computer will maneuver in such a way to get in front of the camera. It happened to me all the time. The sprite, the scrolling and the scaling of the fighters is impressive. It's impressive, but it is not good for gameplay. In fact, it is the most horrifying thing to control that I've ever seen. And you can do Street Fighter type moves, right?
Yeah.
You've got all your power ups, your hold back, forward,
Fireballs. Yeah.
and all that good stuff, but they're completely meaningless
Oh.
because anytime you throw a fireball, the chances that your opponent is still going to be on the same plane of where you threw that fireball are nothing. Some of the charge attacks where your body physically attacks the other person, since you're a larger thing, you can sometimes hit with those. But just hitting with projectiles, I had no luck, none at all. The game is fast paced.
Yeah.
It really screams, and every hit is devastating. Throws will do 1/3 of your life.
Yeah. That was my bread and butter.
They're all spinning pile drivers. It's ridiculous.
They're not all. They're not all.
No, I mean that kind of a damage.
No, I got you. Yeah, yeah.
So when I sat down to play this game, I had no idea what I was getting into. I thought I knew what Aaron was choosing, but I clearly did not.
No one knew.
I tried to maneuver around the board and had very little success. Like just walking in and out of the planes, I did not feel was well done. When I got really far away from my opponent, he would charge me at tremendous speeds and crush me. When I worked close to the opponent and tried to do throws and stuff, he crushed me. When I was at middle distance trying to play footsies and stuff like that, he crushed me. This game is ridiculously hard with no difficulty settings that I could find.
The dip switches are unknown in me.
Correct.
Yeah.
So you also tried to turn down the difficulty.
Well, no, you just keep going. I'll tell you about my experience, how quick I was.
There are stages in the game where when you hit the ground, an effect will happen. For example, there's a snow stage, and every time you're thrown or hit the ground in some manner, there's a little snow poof effect that happens.
Yeah.
It's huge and takes up way too much of the screen for too long, and it will almost always get you killed. It's everything in this game is designed for you to lose. I looked up how to do the moves. I figured out some of my own, some of the easy ones. The moves are incredibly difficult to pull off because as you start doing them, a lot of them are tap forward, back, forward button, right? When you hit forward, back, you might start hitting left, right, and that feels okay, but your opponent will circle around you. So forward is no longer forward. And it just messes with the controls. It doesn't play well. It feels about the worst I've ever had a game feel. Fighting game, I never felt like I had full control of my character. The computer cheats. You can't set and spam super moves. There's a cooldown, a non-visual cue cooldown in between when you can do moves, repetitive moves. The computer has no such cooldown. Anything that takes tapping the button to do an effect, to do a super move, you can't just do. You can't jump, be hitting the button, and then the effect go off. You will swing at least twice, normally 4 times, of just jabbing before the move will actually go off. The computer has no such restrictions. And I'm a button presser. You know that.
That's true.
And I could not get these things to go off any faster. My goal was to beat the game.
Yeah.
I failed.
I didn't beat it either. Don't feel bad.
I got to the 5th fighter of 6.
Yeah.
And I absolutely could not get... I tried multiple characters. I could not get anything to work. This might have been the most miserable fighting game I've ever had to play. Aaron, what's your opinion on Dark Edge?
I think you've sort of put this game in a box. All right, I'm gonna let the box open here.
All right, go for it.
This game, again, put yourself in the context of when this was released. And then I like to make valid points while he's drinking.
No, I
Oh,
understand what you're going to say.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this is like revolutionary for the time.
well, I
That
wouldn't
does-
say it like that.
That doesn't matter. You can't say, man, look at the effort they put in when the effort is a failure. I mean, when if you put forth a tremendous effort to bring something new to the table
Yeah.
and not all the elements work, that's one thing. This was a failure from beginning to end. There was no success in this. So go ahead, finish your statement.
For the year this was released, was
Uh-huh.
93.
Yes,
This is a new concept for a fighting game.
sort of.
Okay,
Because your Neo Geos have already been doing the in and out background stuff.
that's
with
not
Fatal
even close
Fury.
to the same.
I understand.
And
Go
also,
ahead.
those games suck.
No, they
So
don't.
this game way better than Fatal Fury. Anyways, so what you've got here is you've got all the power of the System 32 board that render these beautiful, like three-dimensional backgrounds. Everything you stand on, there's places where you stand on in water, on sand, on snow. The effect's really cool. The amount of distance you can put between you and your opponent is insane. This thing will zoom way out there, and it'll zoom back in. It's quite remarkable. The characters are rendered in a pretty decent way. I think they look pretty good. But the problem with the game is it is sort of sloppy game in terms of the game feel. You don't feel like you've got total control. One of the things that Virtua Fighter, or even a game like Ballerina to Shinden did, which is sort of a similar concept, they kept you in a certain plane until it was time to leave the plane. In this game, when you have free roam to just go anywhere you want, you can't. You're right. You can't settle in a certain. You can't get in the same plane as your opponent to actually instigate the fight. And when you're playing the computer, I think against another human, this might be more fun. But against the computer has the ability to get in your plane, even if you're moving, and you don't have the ability to get in the computer's plane. It causes probably, for example, I'm throwing fireballs and stuff, and the computer is gone, long gone. You're right, but the computer was quite apt at hitting me with fireballs or attacks when it used its body, like that guy that was like Blanca that would spin in, and so does make the game frustrating. I will also say that the fighters you have to choose from are they're low end. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
You've got the hot chick who I played,
Genie.
and you've got well, I will say there's a guy called, I think his name's Chunk or something like that, or Bunk. And he's the guy, the samurai guy, and he looks pretty amusing when you pick him, and he's actually pretty cool to fight with. He's a samurai. He's got crazy hair. He seems to celebrate a lot. I liked him. Then you've got a Darth Vader looking guy who's got like Iron Man. Well, I mean, he's picture Darth Vader with no cape, and he's also copper. And he's the one that does the drop down
Looks nothing like Darth Vader.
No, he's got the Darth. His name is like Varth or something. It's pretty close to Darth. And he does like a jumping. His throw, he throws you down and jumps up near and lands on you. He's pretty cool. I like playing with him. Then you've got this guy that's got like spines or something. He can spin himself up in a ball. Then you've got this guy who looks like a giant, like an elderly baby in a power suit. That was a weird guy. Like, what was the scoop on that guy?
Main.
That was your guy?
Yeah.
I liked his celebration because he would sort of like jump on him and shit like, yay! Not fully, but he would extend his little baby arms out of it. But it was a weird game. The characters that they put in this were weird. Maybe it would make more sense in Japan. I don't know. But I looked up the move sets. Like, I was the commander throw. That was my thing. You could glide through the first, say, 2 fights with not that much trouble. The third fight, they start to get a lot tougher. And then the last couple fights are like a death march.
Yeah. And no matter how many times you continue, they never get easier.
I never got to the boss either.
No.
And I wanted to because I know there was a bonus stage that was sort of like what's it called, Space Harrier, and right before you got to the last guy. And it's funny because I saw a video of the last guy, and what they did was that the last guy's stationary, and you sort of fight around him as he does stuff, And that in this game, that's actually a better concept for the game.
Yeah,
in a lot of ways.
If one opponent was stationary, this would have been much
But the
better.
backgrounds in this are pleasant. I mean, this was a game where they were like, they went outside. This is what I liked about this era. Really, this is really a throwback. They were going way outside the norm for this game. They were trying something different. It didn't work, but I'm sure they used this and learned from it when Virtual Fighter was put together. Because this, and by the way, that one thing you have to also give credit to is the System 32 board. The scaling and some of this is quite good. I mean, and it's fast. And with all these background stuff, I mean, this really flexes the muscle of what this board's capable of graphically and speed-wise. But as a game, this is your classic, like, tech demo-y type game. It's not a great game, but it's interesting looking, and it's something you want to try at least once or twice just to say you did. I'm glad we played it, but it is, there you go.
I played this for a long time.
Because
I was desperate to beat it.
Yeah.
I was desperate to beat it, and I never did. Just a rundown of the characters real quick.
Yeah.
There's only 6 of them. You've got Blood, who's the Bio Monster Man, he's the guy with the fins.
Yeah.
You've got Jaeger.
Jaeger, that's the Darth Vader
Is
guy.
a cyborg German fighter pilot.
I didn't get that.
That's why I'm just reading the descriptions, man. Goliath is your giant labor-wearing power suit.
That's the
guy.
baby.
He's not a baby.
The old-looking guy.
You've got Mech, MEK. He's from the European Mechanical Enhanced Commando.
Wow.
That's right, Mech. Mechanical Enhanced Commando with a K.
Okay.
He lost his limbs in the battlefield.
Oh, man.
But
you think they'd find a more appropriate guy to do the fighting?
Well, I don't know. You've got Jeannie. She's your female martial artist who is also a gymnast. And then you've got Thud.
Thud. That's it. Thud. That was his name. Thud.
He's the American samurai wearing sunglasses and dual wielding 2 blades.
Yeah, I like Thud. Thud and Genie were my favorites of the bunch. And by the way, if you beat the game with Genie, you get a little sexy ending where she gets all dolled up at the end, seductively.
Uh-huh.
And also, I believe Thud also has the same ending. I don't know. So you're not a fan of this one then?
This was I tried, Aaron. I really, really tried to enjoy this.
Yeah.
I played it. I gave it a chance. I thought maybe if I learned the controls, learned the techniques, but you're right. Maybe fighting another person, it would not be quite as bad.
But nothing's going to make it less janky control wise. It's just the way it was built.
Yes, and the amount of times I was fighting a character that was just butting in the camera, and I couldn't even see my guy.
Yeah.
And then what is left and right, and what is up and down, and trying to block the cheating computer. It was just it was a nightmare. They should have stopped and said, this is not working. And they never did that, and they kept pushing, and I think that's a result.
The funny thing is, I was reading about this game because, of course, it never got released at home. A lot of these games on this board didn't get released, and I read that the fans demanded that this get home released, and I think that's one of the reasons it was on that little mini console. Like the people in Japan, it has its fans, believe it or not.
Well, everything has its fans.
There. I don't suppose you could buy this board anywhere, could you? I mean, I've never seen it.
I didn't look.
I'm gonna look. I'll read the review we got. We did get a review from one brave soul. I'm not gonna say sucker, but you know what I mean. And that brave soul was none other than our good buddy Pajaka, who's in the chat right now. He says, when Street Fighter 2 came out, it set the world on fire, and the challenge was on not only to copy it, but surpass it to become king of fighting games. Many tried, and some did well. Dark Edge gets a trophy for showing up. Oh, wow, that's not good. It really feels like a tech demo that got rushed out to have something on the market. The main flaw with Dark Edge is the constantly changing perspective, mainly due to your opponent moving around, which makes it a very confusing and hard to play game. Pulling off moves is mind-boggling because you have to work out if you are facing left or right when someone you are facing almost directly into the distance. Sometimes you can be pulling off a move and be facing the other direction when you finish because your opponent moved around you. And because either yourself or your opponent can be in the distance, sometimes blocking the view, it's difficult to judge the distance, which makes picking your strategy quite tricky. Add to that the rather loose collision system, and the whole thing falls over quite fast. The characters are dull and forgettable, and their select images look different than how they look in the game, which is minor, but really, how the heck does that happen? The constant moving around and zooming in and out actually succeeded in making me nauseous, which I haven't experienced in the game in about 30 years. So that's something, I guess. An unplayable mess that fails to deliver a punch. 4 out of 10. He killed your game. By the way, I want to say something before you chime in with the eBay. We forgot to mention something else the computer does in this game. Is at the beginning of the match, he'll jump you. Like they instantly start beating you. I mean, before they even finish saying start, they are on you. I don't know if you noticed that.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, what do you got?
The only thing available is the Dark Edge arcade flyer selling for $35.
No, well, that shows you. I'd wager this game is not well produced, if you know what I mean.
Oh, it definitely wasn't well produced.
So there you go. There you go. Well, Brent, I'm glad you enjoyed that, man. And I look forward to bringing more games to you for you to play in the future. So, I gave Brent the best game. So I thought, well, I'm going to pick something. I'll pick something for myself and to get some, just to have something on the board here. And so what I went out with was, bam, it's Spider-Man, the video game.
Yes.
That's a brazen statement. This wasn't even the first Spider-Man game.
Not by a long
This
shot.
replaced all other games. Of course, developed and published by Sega. The designer of this is Rapayuku Surumi. Now, I looked this guy up, and he did a lot of work. Believe it or not, he was behind, he produced Jackson Dexter, Precursor Legacy, Spyro 2, Crash Team Racing, Crash Bandicoot Warp, Crash Bandicoot 2. So he did a lot of Crash stuff. And the music on this is credited to Kazuhiko Neiji. Again, this was released in '91. It's a 4-player simultaneous game, big time cabinet. Although I believe, didn't we see this as a 2-player variant?
I've seen this as a 2-player.
So clearly, because I remember playing this at the Gold Mine, they only had the 2-player version when we saw it. So this is a game where you take on the role of either Spider-Man or one of his amazing friends. And I will say the lineup of amazing friends in this is quite an odd. And I'm a comic book guy, but even by my standards, this is a motley crew. So you've got your choice of Spidey, of course, the webhead himself. You've also got Hawkeye, which tickled me pink because I was a big Hawkeye fan. And this is one of those rare times. It's funny though, he showed up in the Avengers game too.
Yep.
So he did double duty. Then you've got one of the real oddball choices, Submariner. Submariner is like a super powerful Atlantean. Like, what's he doing hanging out with slumming with these geeks? And then lastly, another odd choice. You've got the lady of the group, Black Cat, which spent the majority of her career as a bad guy. So why she was here, I can't explain that either. So the plot of this game, and there is sort of a plot, is that Spider-Man is in pursuit of the Sorcerer's Stone, which is possessed at the beginning of the game by Kingpin and used to supersize his lackeys. This is an interesting game because this is a game that really utilizes the hardware format because it starts out in it's got a very beautiful comic booky look to it. It comes up, it talks, Spider-Man talks. There's all sorts of audio cues. It's got all the bam, bow, biff kind of punches. And so it does a very good job of trying to tell you, hey, listen, you're playing in this comic book. you'll notice when it starts up that the characters you pick are large,
Yeah,
big guys.
huge meaty.
And the bad guys you fight are also big, and the streets and stuff are very well detailed. There's at the beginning of it, a car goes by, so there's stuff in the foreground and the background, which is always nice. You you have the ability to jump. You have the ability to to punch or kick, whatever the guy does. Then you can hit both your buttons and do like special
your
attacks
desperation move.
for different guys, which will change as the game changes. We'll get into that. So just as an example, in the first level of this, the most of this game, and if this game has an Achilles heel, it's this. The majority of this game is you walking down the back street or on the roof or wherever, fighting unnamed geeks.
Yeah.
Okay. This game is the mother of all unnamed geeks. They've got unnamed palette swap geeks to beat the band, but they only have about, I don't know, 4 or 5.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the time, I mean, you spend fighting them over and over and over. So a majority of this game, you will spend fighting the same color swap dorks. And also, whenever you fight them, you fight these guys that are in like the full bodysuit with like a mask. They look like Thunderfoot from the old NWA Georgia show. And they also fight like Thunderfoot. They're very crappy. But when you kill them, they go, well, they make this noise. And you'll hear, and there'll be like 5 of those guys on the screen. So you'll hear this weird high-pitched, I don't know, wail or whatever, I don't know what you would call that, over and over and over. Where this game excels is the myriad of bosses and villains from Spider-Man's back catalog. They've stuffed this game full of Spider-Man villains. The first guy you fight is he comes up on the back of a flatbed truck. Well, actually, it's a box truck. The side falls off, and you fight Venom. He comes off this truck, and you fight with him, which is it's real. And he talks. He's all messed up. You fight Venom, and when you beat him, this orb flies over him, and this is a Sorcerer's Stone. And when it hits him, it enlarges him to about 3 or 4 times the size of Spider-Man. And at this point, the game changes. This is where they use the patented Sega beautiful, scoping where they move you in and out.
Yeah, the scaling on this is really good.
And then when Venom supersizes, it scales out, and then you see what the second part of this game is, which is a game where you're jumping up or down these platforms and fighting guys. Everything is miniaturized at this point. And then you'll have boss battles in this area too.
Yeah.
Most of these areas involve you going up and down structures, and again fighting guys, shooting guns or whatever is there. But your powers change. Like on this level, Spider-Man can shoot a web blast. Hawkeye shoots an arrow. These guys actually have.
Submariner uses electricity.
Yeah, for some reason. I don't know why.
Black Cat uses her whip.
Her whip thing, her rope thing. She really was more of a rope with a thing on the end. But you climb up these things, and you can use your powers to like hand over hand on parts of it, pull yourself up. Sort of everyone in this game, despite the fact that, for example, let's say you're Submariner, okay? Like Submariner can fly, okay? So I don't know why he's hanging around like a doofus. But in this game, no flying. That's out. He has to climb like everyone climbs like Spider-Man once you get to these levels.
Well, no, they don't. They try to keep Spider-Man a little bit unique.
Well,
he gets to climb underneath stuff.
Right, but I mean, these guys still they pull themselves up,
Yeah.
and they. So once you get to these levels, like when you fight for example, in the first level, Venom, huge size Venom comes back, and he's coming through and he's punching these platforms and blowing them out of there. And you have to punch him and kick him, get out of the way, and then once you defeat him again, you will end up being back to big size again. So the levels will kind of scope in and out depending on what you're doing. Sometimes you're climbing up and down a building. Sometimes you're trying to get on top of a Zeppelin. Is another one you have to do that with. I don't like the little versions of these as much as the blown up, cool looking version, but still it kind of mixes up the game.
Yeah, just to kind of put what you're saying into I think better articulated. You go from a Final Fight type game to a run and gun game. It becomes a platformer when it zooms out.
I wouldn't call it a running gun, but I guess you could call it that.
Because your attacks are no longer punching kicks; they're all projectile attacks.
It's different, that's for sure. So the overarching plot of this game is you're pursuing the Sorcerer's Stone, and and Kingpin is in possession of it, and so you're going through all the people he's putting your way. So you'll end up fighting. You fight, like I mentioned, you fight Venom.
Well, I can go through the whole list if you'd like.
Go ahead.
Your main baddies are Kingpin, Venom, Doctor Octopus, Electro, Lizard, Scorpion, Sandman, Green Goblin, Hobgoblin, and Doctor Doom.
Yeah, now some of these guys sort of get shortchanged.
Doc Ock.
Doc Ock and Electro are bad guys when you're in the running gun
platformer.
area.
Yeah.
And you're basically just avoiding their spread attacks as you punch and kick them. That's basically the way those go. The other guys, like Sandman, Lizard, they're all in the flesh, baby, in full effect. The fight with the goblins is real fun. The hobgoblins, when you fight Green Goblin, Hobgoblin, first you just punch them down, and then they laugh, and their little wing comes and picks them up, and then they'll come and zoom over you and throw bombs at you. You've got to avoid. Then you've got to punch them as they go by or kick them out of the air. The best part, though, is and I love the way they rendered this in the game, because the whole time these guys are laughing and screwing around. But at one point they charge you, but before they charge you, they zoom across the sky, and that thing's putting out a bunch of nasty pollution as it goes by. It's making this noise, and to see the guy laughing, it's a real good effect. They did a great job rendering these villains. They really look good, sound good, don't they? I mean, I thought the look of the bad guys in this sort of makes the game more fun, because you really get to see a lot of his rogues gallery in
Well, yeah, the graphics on this are really impressive and really detailed.
Yeah, but the problem with it, and we can summarize this pretty quick. The problem with this game is the sameness. There's too much fighting of those unnamed dorks. They don't have enough. I mean, they add some fat guys. There's always a fat, bald guy that rolls around like a bowling ball. On behalf of all fat bald guys, I'm sick of that. Why can't the Kingpin be the good guy in the game? And he's another fat, bald guy, rolls around, So ultimately, you end up blowing down Kingpin's blimp. It crashes into Kingpin's mansion building. Then you have to go in there and deal with Kingpin. And then eventually you are up in the sky fighting Kingpin. And as you kick Kingpin's brains out, Dr. Doom somehow gets the Sorcerer's Stone, and you crash land in Latvia or Latvia, whatever it's called, and then which is Dr. Doom's home country.
Yeah.
Then there's a sequence where you're underground fighting these weird ape men, orangutan men, and this cave, which is odd. And then eventually you get to Dr. Doom's headquarters, go through his geeks, fight Dr. Doom. It's pretty standard stuff. I enjoyed it, though. I remember when this came out back in the day, graphically, I couldn't believe how beautiful it was. We should mention that this is a quarter-draining machine. This was made for the arcade, and they are not subtle in the way that they take your money. So I believe when you put in your credit, you get 400 hit points. Now, you can get more hit points in the form of these heart containers. In fact, often it's just you're getting tons of these things. But the problem is the bad guys will ruin you with these things. Plus, when you use your mega power and take some, that sucks.
Plus, you have the constant tick down gauntlet style.
Yeah, it's you're right, constant tick down gauntlet style, which I never liked that. That's what they did. I didn't get to play this 4 players more than once or twice, but I have gotten to do it. But we played this a lot in the 2-player variety, and we've always enjoyed it. I always did anyway. What'd you think about Spider-Man the video game?
This is an odd one for me.
Yeah.
I have played this in the arcade, but I've played it, and I played it to completion this week.
Me too. Yeah, you gotta do that.
And I did it with all the different characters. The character variation is enough that you can say, "Oh, I prefer this character over that character,"
but barely.
But are basically the same. I think you can say without a doubt, Black Cat is the worst.
Yeah, I don't like it.
And Hawkeye is the best. And the reason
Hawkeye or Spider-Man 1, it's close.
The reason why I say Hawkeye is when you do your desperation attack, he hits close with the bow and then shoots a projectile.
Yeah.
So every desperation attack, you're getting 2 attacks. and he's the only one like that. Where Black Cat has this real small AOE attack where she kind of
There's a little lasso action.
and it's really bad.
Yeah, I didn't like that one that much.
Namor does a electric attack that is decent. It's a cone attack, and Spider-Man does a cone attack as well.
Yeah.
The problem with those though is, like I said, it's a one shot and done. Whereas Hawkeye gets 2 attacks with his desperation. Throughout the game, all the combos and stuff are basically the same. Throws are a little bit different, and if you're playing multiplayer, when you throw an enemy, the body of the enemy can actually hurt your allies.
Yes.
Hawkeye does a straight down throw, so unless your buddy is right on top of you, you're not going to take that damage. In contrast, and this is what really hurts Namor, Namor throws them up like a skeet shoot.
Yeah.
And often will throw them so high they go off the screen, and then your buddy's wondering where he's going to come down at. So that's his biggest downfall.
He's an odd, but like the Namor and Black Cat are both. I mean, Black Cat, at least she's in the Spidey, sphere of friendship or whatever.
Sure.
Namor is a weird choice for this game. And really, Hawkeye doesn't make. I mean, Hawkeye. It's not like Hawkeye and Spider-Man were hanging out.
Right.
I mean, they were both in the Avengers or whatever. But I mean, this game often gets compared to Captain America and the Avengers. Because I mean,
I want to go into that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I want to finish this first. The attacks, you can do basic combos, 4 and 5 hit combos, just striking the same opponent over and over. It's all button, button, button. There's no tricks. There's no gimmicks. If you want to throw a person, you walk into them, and you can't beat them after you grab a hold of them. It's only throws, which I don't like that. I like being able to grab the opponent, hit a few times, and then throw a direction.
I like to hit him on the ground too.
Yeah, that's not in here.
Yeah.
The run and gun section, the platform sections are an interesting breakup from a beat 'em up.
Yeah.
I personally, I don't think they do enough with them. I think they could have made them a lot more interesting, and they didn't.
Yes, I would agree with that, because I mean the actual screen that changes, they've got a lot to work with there, but it's almost always just some geeks with the killer yo-yo or a gun. They could have done, like, you could have had a pursuit, like someone that's like Spider-Man coming after you, like maybe like I don't know, anybody, Carnage, let's say, who could have done the same kind of moves, or pursuit. You had to pursue them.
Yeah.
It's not the same. So I agree with you on that. They missed opportunity.
Also in the run and gun section, there are enemies who shoot guns, shoot rifles, and they are the only projectile that can go from one edge of the screen to the other. Even your superheroes only go 3/4 of the way. That's silly. The game uses it as a way to chip away at your health. I mean, I get it. They're arcade games. They're beat 'em ups. They're supposed to sit there and steal your money. I like to play these to see how far I can get on a quarter or on $1 or whatever. And I can get pretty far. I mean, I can get past the whole Venom fight in the run and gun, and I can get halfway through. Usually, I can get to Electro before I lose.
Yeah,
that's not bad. That's 2.5 levels. But the later levels are ridiculous.
Yeah, they want all your money.
They're so cheap.
Yeah,
it makes it unfun, and it makes trying to 1cc this almost impossible.
That monkey level is ridiculous too. It's real silly.
Really, I get that you're chasing her on the tablet, but some of the enemies you fight in this, like Dr. Doom, you crash into his country and then just go and beat him up.
Well, he did take the stone, though.
No, the stone landed in his land.
Well, you saw, remember when they're going down on that ship? He's like, whoa, he appears like a big illusion. Yeah, but he's taunting you. You can't let that stand. You're Spider-Man. You got to go smack that sucker down.
I mean, I'm not going to hold that against it, of course, but I just thought some of this was kind of silly. I think overall, you have to make a comparison between this and Captain America and the Avengers,
Yeah.
and to a lesser extent, X-Men, the 8-player cab.
Yeah.
And of those three, no matter how I'm playing it, be it solo or with friends or whatever, I always put this as the worst one. And I tried to figure out why. And halfway through, the game loses a lot of its spirit. A lot of it becomes so samey that it loses a large portion of its fun. Also, the only other special move you can do is jump, and at the peak of your jump, hit your attack.
I do love that.
So you get a web swing with Black Cat and Spider-Man. Hawkeye, can't remember what he does. It sucks though. And Namor does this dropping fist dive attack. But outside of that, you never. That's it. You don't get new moves. You don't feel powerful in any sort of way. Even your desperations aren't flashy or damaging enough to feel good. When I compare this to Captain America and the Avengers, that game has so much character. It has, instead of run gun stages, it has straight up shooter sections, which I don't
like.
pair as well with the genre as the run and guns do, but I have more fun with them. On that game, you can block, you can pick up and throw different items. It's funny to hit big baddies with like soda cans, and you don't get any of that. There's no destructive environmental things that you can pick up and
on the run and gun area, stuff gets destroyed, but you don't destroy it.
Right. And then the big daddy of them all, the X-Men beat 'em up. That game is so flush with character and voice acting and just ridiculous story plots and stuff that it kind of drives it through. I think of the three, Captain America and the Avengers are my favorite, and that makes no sense because it has a weird cast as well.
At least they were Avengers, though. I mean, they've got old vision, though.
I can't put my finger on it, though, why this game just does not appeal to me. But it doesn't. It really does. I would play it. I can enjoy playing it for about 20 minutes, and then it becomes a slog. But I just never really got into this game.
I believe X-Men came out, was it 93 or something like that? So it's got a couple years on this, and you can tell. I compare this favorably to Konami's offering on X-Men or Avengers. And the reason is, I mean, listen, this is a better looking game, probably than both those. Actually, it looks when you're in full size mode, it looks outstanding.
Yeah,
and what they did was they made it comic booky looking.
Yes.
They did a real good job with the art and the movement and stuff. So I mean,
and the technology is far superior.
I think it's better looking and better sounding. Though I mean, X-Men's got great music. I'm not really comparing it to X-Men because that's several years down the line. But Avengers you can compare it to. And this is far superior looking, sounding. I think this controls fine, but the problem is a lot of what you say, I agree. It's just the sameness of it. You've got that great rogues gallery. So, I mean, this game has a lot going for it. It's definitely not a dud. It's a fun game, but it's one that it's got beat 'em up syndrome where you just fight the same 5 or 6 guys over and over. You know, it's funny, those games where they just have you walking along the background, just fighting generic guys. Like, I would just prefer they just, like, shorten the level or something. I don't know what to make it. I don't want to fight 500 of the same guy. You know, it just gets old.
Well, it all comes down to money.
And I will say, eventually in this, you'll do stuff like they'll break the lizard, will come back occasionally, or you'll fight a bunch of Venoms, will come back. They try to use some of their bosses again, which is okay. I would, because you've got so many bosses.
Yeah.
You know, I would crank them out. But I think this is I've always enjoyed this game, really. I thought it was a lot of fun. And of course, I'm a big comic book guy, so it worked out good for me. I like the way that they integrate the bubbles and the thought bubbles and the kapow and stuff. So it was a good game. I did look this up on eBay before we get to the review because I was wondering because these were available back in the day. I'd see one every once in a while.
Yeah.
The PCBs for this thing, just the PCBs alone, sold for $326 $466 and $224 respectively. So these are going for a couple $100 if you get lucky. I looked to see if I could find the full machine of what it was going for. They had a guy selling one for the only one available on eBay was $4,499, the best offer for the 4-player. I'm not terribly surprised because of who's in it.
Yeah.
You know, we did get a review. It was from Pajako. Pajako chimes in. Well, first of all, Pajako has a little tune here. Spider-Man, Spider-Man, you can do whatever a Spidey can. Spin a web just sometimes, but doing this will thief your life. Look out, I'm playing Spider-Man. Very clever, Pajako. He's a clever boy. He says a great use of the license with all different characters. Though Spidey can lay off the donuts as he looks a little paunchy when walking around. That's true. For whatever reason, they rendered Spider-Man. He's kind of hunched over a little bit in a weird way.
Yeah, Namor's a little lanky too.
Yeah, I don't know why. Most of the game is pretty easy, and really it's only the crunch points that cause you any trouble. It plays quite well, but there are clearly points in the game design, Doc, that just say, player inserts more quarters here.
Yeah.
It is expected a little cheap, and it is expected to be a little cheap in places like trying to jump mines. Sometimes feels impossible.
Yes.
And when the Green Goblin's flying around the place throwing grenades, you will take damage. And of course, the boss rush will take some money off you as well. I really like the zooming out parts, as it adds a new element to the game. As Spidey can crawl on walls and ceilings, just like he should be doing. I didn't like that you couldn't really use your web slinger in the main game without taking away life. I know it's a staple video game beat 'em ups, but surely a recharge would have been better. Spoiler, when I completed this game at about 20 credits and enjoyed it, I felt shoehorning another round with Venom after you spanked Dr. Doom into oblivion was a bit tacked on. TMNT was out in the arcades for over a year when Spider-Man came out, and while it is good, it looks dated comparatively. Overall, fun arcade game, probably the best played with friends to help with the crunch points, but achieves its goal, and it's worth playing 8 out of 10. How do you, he brought that up. How do you compare? How does this compare with TMNT to you?
Oh, Turtles crushes it.
See, I mean, Turtles.
It has
a similar problem though. You fight those guys over and over and over.
But first of all, that makes more sense. Second of all, when the Foot Clan palette swap, they're actually doing different things. Turtles plays better. It has so much more character.
I still don't think it looks as nice as this. I think this has got a great look to it.
Yes, I agree with that.
And I think I like the art style. I mean, this is when you get your mute. What's the one Beats of Rage? You go in there and have somebody redo this and add more characters. You can probably make a really good game out of this. So all you Beats of Rage geeks, get in there and fulfill my fantasies and desires. That's all I got to Brent.
You know what else we've got, Aaron?
I don't know.
It's a little thing we like to call the wheel.
Oh, man, the wheel? Well, what do we add this week? Let me tell you. What did we add? You added one and I added one. Infurio games, suggested by Buck Owens. I don't know what that is. So that's always
also added
Captain Power, suggested by both. So and then as our throwback piece, we got the Dreamcast, brother. The Dreamcast. You gonna give it a whirl?
And you have any wants, desires?
I don't know. Captain Power scares me because I don't think I don't have the gimmicks that you need to play it. So I'm a little worried about that one. So everybody says, and the winner is
Captain Power.
I knew it.
Of Carshaller.
I knew it. So that looks like we'll be playing Captain Power. Did you ever watch this show? Because I believe J. Michael Straczynski worked on this show from Babylon 5, I think. If I'm not mistaken. Someone famous worked on it. I know that's a fact. So we'll be back.
How are we going to play that?
Well, we'll have to figure out a way. Hey, listen, if Bo put it in there, it's got to be playable. He never hoses. That's for sure. So I wanted just to clear everything up. We will be back with ARG Presents in 2 weeks on July 21st. Next week, Brent, it's our Sinclair time has came back around. And I know people have been playing this game for a while now. It's Bugaboo the Flea.
Yep.
Bugaboo the Flea will be our next offering next week on our Sinclair. And then in 2 weeks, we'll be back for ARG Presents. Get the Power. We got 2 weeks to figure this thing out, the Brent, before we are boned. You got anything you want to talk about here in the exit? We have, I do want to mention before we get to you, I know what you're going to say. If you're interested, of course, Boat, our good buddy John Bodekar Shaw, just got back from the UK, Nottingham to be precise, where he presided over and emceed Kickstart 2. Ravi's
parts of it, not the whole thing.
no, he emceed the whole thing.
Oh,
He was the king dong of all of it. And this was Ravi Abbott from the Retro Hours big Amiga Festival. And right now, if you go over to our Amiga Retro Gaming YouTube channel, yeah, you can watch both of you, Mike Bale, who worked on Lemmings and worked on Grand Theft Auto, and he worked on that crazy game we played for the Super Nintendo, that Uniracers game. Remember that?
Oh, yes.
So that was one of his too. And Bo, probably one of the few guys who would ever do this because it's Bo. He actually gets into this guy's console career, not just the Amiga stuff. It's a real good interview. We just premiered it the other day, and we've been very fortunate because we've got access. We'll be the exclusive distributor of all the interviews that were done at Kickstart that Bo did. So we're going to be putting those out every week. We'll probably put out a new one. And Bo interviewed everybody, man, and from this guy to Stu Cambridge, a bunch of guys. So including hardware stuff. So stay tuned because they didn't stream this event. This is the only way you can see this stuff.
Yeah.
It's going to be our channel. So Boat's right in the driver's seat. Did a real good job. So stay tuned to our channel on the YouTube and check us out.
Excellent.
Anything else you got going on?
Nope.
Let's take it to the house. We'll see you next week, everybody, for a little bugaboo action. Until then, bugaboo!